right, we got Dolphy. What? How you do that laugh? All right. So, at the end of the day, you probably think to yourself, you've seen every Doflamingo build ever, but you always got to think outside the box. So this is outside the box. So I want you to pay attention to this. So, learning and understanding this game, draw/search, is actually something important, right? So this is technically the draw/search for 7 Warlords. Why do I say that? Because you're only looking at 2 cards. It's almost like a draw card. If your deck is primarily 7 Warlords, you're most likely going to be able to pluck something. But the secondary benefit that we don't see here is that it does give Doflamingo vision, because that's super important. For this guy, for this deck, for this build, he has to be able to see what he's going for, because a lot of times when you YOLO, oh man, it's a sad story if you don't catch. So yeah, he technically helps that, right? But there's another magical thing about him. Because you got, like, let's say Perona or 3-drop, or even this thing over here, which is only 3 cards, but hey, it helps sometimes, I promise you. If you get like a sticky situation where you got these 9s, the 7s, and these events over here, we'll get, because you'll keep in mind there's 7 Warlord events, right? This plucks them. This plucks them. So you think of it this way: you set up the top 5, right? Okay, your opponent's go, your go. You draw 1, that's 1 card. You summon this, that's 2 cards. It looks at the top 2. You add 1 to your hand, and you choose to either leave the next one on top or you bottom deck it. So you go through 4 cards out of the 5. What makes that important is the fact that when you have those bad situations where you want to bottom deck after looking at the top 5, he cleans it up for you. He cleans it up for you. He develops a board, yada yada. Strategy for Doflamingo is at the late game, all these things is blockers. Everything you summon is low-key a blocker, because they're going to attack it. If they don't attack it, that gives you something to attack next turn. Now, what's important about this meta right now is board removal. This is all about board removal. You need this. That's why we got 4 copies. Bottom deck of 5 or less, or you catch the trigger, bottom deck of 3 or less. It's hyper important. This is very important, right? Doflamingo 7-drop, catch the curve, return something. Find the best target to return and return it. That's what it is. Same thing with 9-drop. Find the best target and bottom deck it. Because at the end of the day, this format is about board removal. You develop your board and you remove stuff off of their board. And it's going to take you much further than you realize. Alright, time for some gameplay.
Alright everybody, we're taking a different approach to the audio today due to some ambient sound issues. So it's Doflamingo versus Law. And we choose to go first. We like the odd curve. I actually like Doflamingo in this matchup. I don't know if that's a common thing, but sadly we don't get to open up with a Perona. They get to open up with their Nami. I think obviously clearly Perona's the best opener for Doflamingo. You never like to go blind. Throw out a swing. You never know what they get out of life, but I noticed a lot of Law players don't really care for events anymore. This is the hardest thing about Doflamingo, is organizing your top 5 after you get to see. It's an app thing, I believe. I've heard it from other YouTubers watching their content. For some strange reason, it's just harder to process when you gotta like click the order of everything rather than feel the cards in your hand. Alright, 3000 Worlds trigger. I think this would be very useful. Okay, bottom deck the Brook. Because of the Law matchup, you just kind of want to press his board as much as possible. His engine don't really work until he got 5, so keep that in mind. Swings. I believe he's doing that because he has a blocker. Because ain't nobody chucking mad cards for Nami. Alright, trying to get that Moria out on the board. Okay, opt to attack with blocker first. It is a good idea to use blockers to put pressure, and I guess he realized it was a futile attempt, being that we have 2 swings, because I'm sure he probably would have blocked it if we just swung with leader. I mean, granted, we probably would have got the same result. No, wait, this is better. We took a life. What am I doing? Alright, he swings with leader instead of swinging with Zoro. This is where like complications of the game comes in, because he gets punished for that. He manages to overheat and bounce a Zoro back. So it's always safer to, depending on your circumstances, just swing first and then develop board later, because you never know what their opponent has in their hand and what they're going to get in their trigger. I really like Doflamingo. It's like he is one of the leaders that is strong, but then you have to think outside the box with him sometimes, just to try to keep up with the meta, because we see what's out there, we see what's happening, and I think every turn, unless there's something you want to drop on curve, every turn you can develop a board with his effect, you go for it. Each character is a virtual life, not even a blocker, but an extra life, because it is too risky for your opponent to just leave these characters on the board. All right, put some pressure with the blocker because we're summoning another one. I tell you, aggressive blocker play throws people off guard so much. It really does. You just don't expect it. You count the amount of attacks, you mentally prepare yourself for this many attacks, and all of a sudden they're swinging with their blocker. And then it's weird because you have to decide something, right? It's like, wait a minute. What am I supposed to do? Attack the blocker next so he doesn't have a blocker? But then the blocker did his job. It's weird mind games. It's kind of funny. All right, one of the toughest decision makings in the world. Trying to figure out how to stack the top 5. Mainly in the app, I swear to you, mainly in the app. Okay, so he goes for the blocker. He doesn't want that being a problem. Sure, let it go. Blocker still did his job. This is what I recommend when it comes to playing Doflamingo. If you can save your characters with just one card, then it's cool. It's fine. But if you have to invest 2 or even 3, which I've seen people go do that, unless it's going to give you game next turn because you need an attacker, don't chuck so much resources to save one. You got the leader to keep spitting out more characters, so you're just risking it for the later game where you don't have defense or anything to develop your board. So that is my Doflamingo tip. If you could save the character for just 1 card, then sure. But if it's going to take 2 to 3, you're risking your livelihood there. So we have another 3,000 worlds. That's 3 so far for the match. And I think he ain't saving this. I think that's very sad story for Law here, because you get to keep putting a bunch of pressure with Doflamingo. The board, you see that board still getting really developed, and due to, I want to say, luck of the draw, we got 3,000. We saw 3 altogether so far, but we got 2 in the hand. So even if he tries to develop the bigger bodies, i.e. Blocker Law, Restand Law, or Rush Luffy, we can just bottom deck it as an easy answer. Alright, getting some cycling. Okay, see, Mihawk. Good thing protect the Mihawk because it helped clear that little cluster. We don't need that many 3,000 worlds. Check 1, check the Perona. You only need 1 Perona. See, the vision is just so gorgeous with Doflamingo. This is how you really make sure you're gonna not get clunked. And because we got the Perona, we can just bottom deck that whole thing. It is wonderful and lovely. Alright, develops another Nami. Sadly, Law hasn't really been able to do anything with his board, but now he has his 5 characters, so let's see the Shambles plays. Swing with Makino Pump. That gets defended. Swing with Law. Now we get to look at the top 3. See, I think in the long run, no matter what the deck is, it's just great to... oh, the opponent disconnected.